It's almost Halloween, but there's a problem. I can feel your spirit waning. The steady drip of horror isn't enough. You need a stronger dose. Jason Voorhees won't do, nor will Freddy Krueger. But what might just work is a double dose. Tonight, we are talking about Freddy versus Jason. The idea of these two monsters crossing over was discussed as early as the late 80s, but things were complicated thanks to the scariest word of all, rights. But even once that was resolved and New Line had the power to make this movie, there was still the question, how the hell do you tell this story? And that story likely would involve hell in some way. After all, that's where Jason ended up last time we'd seen him in the 9th Friday the 13th, 1993's Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Remember? Jason dies but his still beating heart turns into a little demon, crawls inside his half-sister's corpse to rebirth himself, before his half-me stabs him with a magic dagger so a bunch of demonic hands could drag him down to hell, leaving only his mask behind until Freddy Krueger's claws reach up to grab that too. So Jason goes to hell, joining Freddy after his own run-in with a vengeful relative. In his case, a long-lost daughter who drags him out of the dream world and blows him up with a pipe bomb, sending the dream demon scurrying. That was in 1991's Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, the 6th entry in the franchise. So in 93, both monsters found themselves in hell. The crossover was teased, and then they discovered a new flavor of hell. Development hell, because yeah, that is a tough story to get right. Stokely Chafin, at the time the senior vice president of production at New Line, who had previously produced I Know What You Did Last Summer, took over production for Freddy vs. Jason. She saw the potential for this movie to be an event, and knew how important it was to get the story right. So she took a lot of pitches and a lot of scripts. According to her, they got 17 different scripts from 12 different writers. Some of those scripts are actually floating around online, and some of the takes are wild. Like Ronald D. Moore, now famous for his Battlestar Galactica reboot. He co-wrote a version with Brandon Braga, which was meant to be a satire on the O.J. Simpson trial, where Jason Voorhees goes on trial. Here's the best part. Ruby, so why can't Jason get a fair trial? Con, because everybody knows he's guilty? Ruby, wrong. Jason can't get a fair trial because of these. She indicates the wall of videotape boxes. The covers are all lurid. Lots of images of killers with knives, axes, and chainsaws chasing scantily clad women. She goes on to argue that all these movies have given people preconceived notions of his guilt. Just so there's no mistake what they're talking about, let's skip ahead a little. Ruby, I don't even know where to begin. Quan pipes in, revealing himself to be the quintessential horror film buff. Quan, well, I'd start with Friday the 13th, 1980, director Sean Cunningham, a breakthrough picture that set the standard for movies to follow. The gore and high body count made this slasher film an instant classic. Ruby looks at him. You watch this garbage? To be fair, this would just be Jason playing catch-up. Freddy already went meta in 1994 with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, featuring Freddy escaping the movies into the real world, where he terrorizes Heather Langenkamp, playing herself as the actress who previously starred in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Movies are so awesome. After so many drafts, it was screenwriters Damian Shannon and Mark Swift who got the gig. According to them, 70% of the previously written drafts were rewrites on the same story, all involving a cult, the Fredheads, and Jason gets resurrected through his heart being thrown into a lake. Anyway, Shannon and Swift were brought in for their pitch after working on another project for New Line, and they impressed, partly because their approach was to respect the history of both characters, accepting the continuity of 6 Nightmare movies and 9 Friday the 13th movies. Jason X, developed while Freddy vs. Jason was stalling, could largely be ignored because it takes place 400 years in the future. I told you, movies are awesome.
Keep it all intact. Make it all count. Don't discount all the other movies, and the fans will love you for it.
Stokely Chafin liked the script, but did a timed reading, and it came out to 2.5 hours. Yes, I want that movie. Release the Shannon and Swift cut. No, they didn't shoot that version. Instead, they brought in David S. Goyer to compress it significantly, making the movie quicker without losing the story or any of the good stuff. Shannon and Swift are pretty cool about his rewrites, though in years since, they've pointed out that's where some of the clunky dialogue comes from. Characters have to spell stuff out instead of letting certain things develop naturally, because that would take too long. Finally, Ronnie Yu was brought in to direct, who had previously done Bride of Chucky. Robert Englund was back as Freddy, while Jason was sadly put through another recast. Kane Hodder had played him in the last 4 Friday movies, but was replaced for this one by Ken Kersinger, Canadian stuntman who previously worked on Jason Takes Manhattan. A lot of people say this decision was made by Yu because he wanted a taller Jason, who could tower over Freddy, but at least according to Yu on the DVD commentary, it was the studio who decided they wanted a new Jason. He said they asked if he minded, and he answered,
I said it's fine, I didn't really, ask for why and all that because it's a studio. I'm just a director.
They brought him Ken, and yes, ultimately you liked him in the role and liked how big he was.
That's what she said.
Come on, guys, grow up. This is serious stuff. This is Freddy vs. Jason, and I think it's time. Join me on a trip to hell for the matchup of the century. It's undead camp counselor killer versus ex-child killer, now dream demon assassin. It's Freddy versus Jason. We begin, appropriately enough, in hell, with Freddy providing some voiceover. From the start, Freddy is definitely the one driving the story, and that makes a lot of sense. Jason is definitely the more bestial of the two, and is not often seen making plans or decisions. First, Freddy talks about his past. Back when he was alive, he was the Springwood Slasher, a killer of children and licker of photos. Ew. Then the parents of Springwood came for him, burned him alive.
But after they killed me, I became something much, much worse. The stuff nightmares are made of.
Over a montage of kills from previous Nightmare movies, Freddy goes on. The children still feared me, and their fear gave me the power to invade their dreams.
And that's when the fun really began.
Until they figured out a way to forget about me, to erase me completely. Being dead wasn't a problem.
But being forgotten, now that's a bitch!
He can't come back if no one remembers him. He can't come back if nobody's afraid. He had to search the bowels of hell, but he found someone. Someone who will make them remember. Who did he find? Jason. I told you like 5 minutes ago, remember? He grabbed his mask. It seems this movie's concept of hell is one of those reliving your sins types of hells. Here, Jason is murdering naked camp counselors, which honestly to him sounds like heaven, unless this is hell for evil camp counselors, and he's like a demon punishing them. See, it all makes sense. Stop questioning it. Freddy invades Jason's hell dream and takes the form of his mother. Through her lips, he reminds Jason, your gift is that you can never die. You've just been sleeping, and now Mommy has something she wants you to do. The same thing she always wants, kill children. But specifically, children on Elm Street. Those children have been very bad. Why do people keep moving to these places? If my parents moved me to Gotham, Derry, or Santa Carla, I'd be like, wait, why do you want to kill me? And they'd be like, Gil, you know why. There's an effect where after Jason kills one camp counselor, they start shape-shifting into other undead camp counselors. At first I thought maybe those were cameos from previous movies, and I still think that would have been a cool way to bring some of them back for a second. But no, and in general the writers decided not to bring any characters back from previous movies, other than, of course, Freddy and Jason. They figured the previous characters would distract from those two. I also think that was the right choice, because although this movie places itself in the continuity of previous movies, it does a good job functioning on its own, where anyone with a passing knowledge of these two characters could easily follow the story. And in the early 2000s, I think requiring anything more than a passing knowledge would have been a mistake. The basic premise works on a meta level. These children have forgotten about Freddy, and by this point it had been almost 10 years since New Nightmare, the lowest grossing entry in the franchise. Funny enough, the premise would work even better today, where the last movie was 2010's remake. Anyway, the counselor transforming effect was a bit cheesy, but not cheesy and actually very cool, is when we cut to Jason's rotting corpse. His lungs inflate and his heart heart starts beating. Then his one good eye opens, and apparently they accidentally shot the wrong eye opening and had to flip the footage to make it work. So Jason heads to Elm Street. I'm always impressed when he does something like that, like in part 2 when he tracks down Alice from the first movie and even calls her on the phone. It's easy to underestimate that Jason boy, but he is capable of basic navigation and using a phone one time. And by the way, he doesn't just go to Elm Street. He goes to 1428 Elm Street, the home where Nancy Thompson used to live, the main character from the original who reprised her role in 3. Now, Laurie Campbell lives there. In a movie like this, celebrating horror icons, my eyes and ears are on the lookout for Easter eggs. So hearing Laurie, I immediately thought Strode, as in Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, though the two Lauries spell their names differently. And Campbell brought to mind Bruce Campbell, or Nev Campbell. I haven't seen the writers confirm it, but I bet there's an homage there. Right now, Laurie is at home, hanging out with her friends Kia and Gib for a sleepover.
Marry, fuck, or kill. Your choices are the Three Stooges.
No, I believe they would play this game, but their go-to would not be the Three Stooges. But you can't take any of the dialogue too seriously. This movie is firmly in the post-Scream era, and the movie is self-aware. Like it's bending over backwards to make Laurie the quintessential final girl, chastising Gib for smoking. What a square. Gib tosses a cigarette out the window, unaware that cigarette has struck a hockey mask. And equally unaware, that hockey mask covers the face of a zombie boy, possibly a deadite, named Jason Voorhees. And he's at the door now? No, that's just Trey, Gib's crappy boyfriend, and his friend Blake. They're trying to set him up with Laurie. Good luck with that. Guess no one told him she's the final girl. Anyway, she still hasn't gotten over Will, her first love. They were 14, he moved away, and she never heard from him again. It's all really soap opera with questionable dialogue, not saved by performances.
You were fucking 14, so get over it.
Yeah, I know we were young, but what Will and I had was real.
Didn't Mr. Real just drop kick your ass without so much as a goodbye handshake? He ever even call or maybe even write to you after he moved?
Hey, remember how you fell in love with that guy a few years ago? Yeah? Remember how he left you? Yeah, never wrote to you? Nothing. Yeah? Why are you summarizing these facts about me? What? Shut up, Laurie. It's for the audience. We gotta catch them up on everything. What the hell are you talking about? Also, remember how your mom died and you haven't gone out with anyone since then? Could you stop doing that? Gib and Trey finish up in the bedroom. She heads to the shower. Time for round 2, this time with Jason's machete. He Kevin Bacon's Trey about 10 times, except this time Jason's on top. And he follows up by folding the mattress and Trey along with it. Like he folds him backwards, breaking his spine. It's awesome. This is definitely a powerful Jason. If you watch the early 80s Friday the 13th movies, then skip to this one, it'll give you whiplash. Jason isn't gently slicing through flesh or poking knives through bodies. No, he is punching machetes through you over and over. His size definitely adds to that physicality, and I like the contrast against those vacant eyes. Like, he doesn't look mad, but clearly he is mad, and it represents the escalation in violence demanded by horror audiences decade to decade. Now jump ahead another 20 years to Terrifier for another fun experiment, and where does it all go from here? What happens in 2030 or 2040? At that point, are we just going to take people and throw them into blenders? Considering where this all happened, the cops are thinking, it's gotta be Krueger. No, don't say that name. The only one who isn't thinking that is Stubbs. He just moved here and doesn't know the old stories. But at the police station, Laurie is pretty sure she heard a name. What was that name? She only remembers once she's fallen asleep. Freddy. Cue the nightmare. The police station, abandoned. Dripping blood that leads her down the hall. Missing children posters whose undead faces follow her. A little girl crying. Someone we saw Freddy kill in his trip down memory lane at the start of the movie. She turns to reveal her eyes have been torn out of her skull. She tells Laurie that Freddy is coming back. Soon he'll be strong enough. It's okay to be afraid. Warn your friends. Warn everyone. Suddenly, she's on her front porch, the door bleeding behind her, and in front of her, a graveyard, and children skipping rope to a familiar chant. The one that starts, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Is this a warning from the dead? No, it's a warning from Freddy. He wants people to know he's coming, because that'll make them afraid, which will make him powerful, thus making the warning a self-fulfilling prophecy. Elsewhere in town, Blake's dad gives him an earful. What was he doing at Laurie's house? Blake isn't having it though. His friend Trey was just killed, and he's so mad he could just sleep. He falls asleep. And he also overheard the name Freddy, meaning there's a little fear there. Enough to kill him? Well, in the nightmare, Freddy tries to strike him down, but no luck. Jason, on the other hand, corporeal Jason Voorhees, no fear needed. He has no problem cutting off Blake's dad's head, then killing Blake himself. Cut to Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital. There, Will and Mark are administered their daily dose of Hypnosil, a drug introduced in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, a drug which suppresses dreams. If the name Will sounds familiar, it should. This is Laurie's dream boy from when she was 14, the love who got away, except it turns out he didn't move out of town. He was stuck in this facility. But when he catches a glimpse of the news story that someone was killed at Laurie's house, he has no choice but to escape with Mark's help. What else do we need to know about these characters? They helpfully fill you in.
I gotta go there. I gotta go see if she's okay. Back to Springwood? You want me to start having nightmares again? Start with that dream demon shit again, okay? You're the one that told the cops Laurie's dad killed his wife.
To be honest though, I find the movie pretty entertaining. I always say these movies really struggle with how to spend the time between kills. To me, those slasher kills are comfort food, fun horror fare. So if you aren't going for anything too serious, I say between those kills, offer another genre of comfort food.
Like Friday the 13th Part 3 basically becomes a sitcom between kills.
Shelley is up to another one of his pranks. Oh no, the cops are after us. Everyone start eating the dope. Oh wait, they weren't after us after all. And now our mouths are full of marijuana for no reason. This movie's between kills comfort food is more soap opera, which also feels more of the time, where slashers of this era often felt like a killer has come to Dawson's Creek, and I don't mind it, especially since the movie really goes for it. If you're making a movie just for fun, then have fun, go wild, have crazy twists like I thought Will moved away, but really he's in a psychiatric facility as part of a town-wide cover-up to ensure no one remembers Freddy Krueger. Everyone is in on it. Even Laurie's dad has an idea what's up, sneaking Hypnosil into her orange juice. At school, Laurie talks about her nightmares. Nightmares which sound very familiar to Mark. Yeah, he and Will snuck into the school to check in on her. Will is cool about it, but Mark is traumatized and quick to unload.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. You know why they sing that? Because that's when he comes for you. In your dreams. You're lucky to be alive. You want some free advice? Coffee. Make friends with it.
Will calms down his friend and oh my god, Will, what are you doing here? The shock makes Laurie pass out, so they take her to the nurse's office. Kia waits for her in the waiting room. She doesn't realize it, but she herself has fallen asleep. The "sorry the nurse can't help you" sign is our tip-off. She's been thinking of getting a nose job and reads a magazine about it, but as she turns the pages, they get more and more violent. Then they get really violent. Freddy's claws stick out of the magazine up her nose and rip it off.
Got your nose!
But he isn't strong enough yet. She wakes up, no worse for wear. This movie knows why we're here for the most part and does a good job dealing out kills and teases of kills to come. Jason gets a few, and lest that get boring, we have these promises. Don't worry. Things are going to get not only violent, but fantastical too. Once Freddy gets his power back. See? It's a slow burn. Mark and Will, meanwhile, lay low and do some digging. They realize there's been a town-wide cover-up. Freddy-related obituaries have been blacked out, including Mark's brother. They say he took his own life, but it must have been Freddy behind it. Not just obituaries, but Freddy survivors, them included, were all tossed into that facility, quarantined, all part of an effort to make people forget about Krueger, to rob him of his power. Oh crap! So did we just make things way worse by spreading the Freddy word? I always love the meeting of science and supernatural. Often these movies have hapless and unarmed teens against a maniac, but what happens when doctors and police get involved? I have fun whenever the movies lean into that. I'll say the soap opera stuff, as they keep piling more stuff on, it starts to wear on me, especially when it's just backstory and not story. When it's not revealing anything we don't already know. Like, my older brother, they say he killed himself, but it was Freddy. Laurie's dad, he killed her mom and no one believes me. That second one especially is just, we know Laurie's dad didn't kill her mom. It was Freddy, because we know what movie we're watching. Well, Freddy is recharging, Jason is in town, nothing left to do but party. Party in the cornfield. Everyone is there, even Linderman, the nerd. He tries talking to Laurie like he always does until Kia is there to shut him down. But he's been force-fed some liquid courage and stands up to her for once, which means Kia's looking at him like, I don't know, maybe there's something to this Linderman guy. They dance while Will tells Laurie about the psychiatric hospital, how he wrote her letters, but they must have never delivered them. Is anyone gonna die in this movie or what? Oh, hello, Gib. She wanders off and spots Trey. Isn't he dead? Yeah, that's the weird part, and should be the tip-off that she's dreaming. If only she were sober enough to notice. This, kids, is what we call a DUI, dreaming under the influence. She follows Trey to one of the silos. Inside, the shadow of Freddy, and behind her, the door disappears. Suddenly, the place is a boiler room maze, where Freddy is the rat and she's the cheese. She hides in a locker, Freddy opens it, and she dies. A wound appears on her chest, and she vanishes. Someone stole his kill! Damn it, Jason, no fair! Yes, in the real world, Jason has skewered her, and the sicko on top of her passed out body. Jason tosses him into the cornfield and leaves her to bleed out on the ground. Then he stands awkwardly behind Shaq and his jock friend. Don't you hate that awkward thing at parties where you want to join a conversation circle but can't find the opportunity to chime in? So you just stand there awkwardly and grab one of their heads and spin it around backwards. Then the Shaq kid runs and you kill him too by throwing the machete into his back. To be fair, Shaq was kinda asking for it. Once his jock friend died by headspin, he doused Jason in booze and torched him. Partygoers scramble while Human Torch Jason walks around, casually macheteing people to death. The burning cornfield and flaming Jason turned the scene into a great, fun visual. And I love afterwards when the Scooby Gang assembles and drives off.
Dude, that goalie was pissed about something.
Like I said, despite what the eyes say, this is an angry Jason. Will drops everyone off at their homes, then finally has a chance to tell Laurie, the reason I was at the institution is because I saw your dad kill your mom. What? Shut up, Will. She died in a car accident. Just then, Dad shows up. Get out of the car, Laurie. As for you, Will, you're confused. You're going back to Weston. Will tries to tell Laurie he's the one who had me committed. Don't listen to him. She runs into the house. Dad follows. She confronts him. Is it true? Do you work at Weston? I thought you were just a general practitioner. Well, yeah, I do consult there sometimes. What is happening? Okay, did I say I like the soap opera stuff earlier? I take it back. It's just, we don't know anything about her dad. So this reveal, for example, he works at Weston. Okay. No, that's surprising because his daughter thought he was just a general practitioner. Well, I didn't know he was a general practitioner until after you told me he worked at Weston. And the did her dad kill her mom subplot feels convoluted, barely developed, and tangential to the real story. Just a weird addition, and I'm surprised it got through Goyer's rewrites. It's hilarious what happens next, because she's screaming like, you lied to me. You knew Will was at Weston all this time. And somehow he thinks she'll listen to him when he's like, honey, I think you need some sleep. I've got some pills here that'll knock you right out. She runs to her room and escapes out the window, back to Will. He tells her about the Kruger cover-up. Meanwhile, his buddy Mark, he's dozed off at his desk. He dreams of his brother, the one who supposedly took his own life. That brother calls him into the bathroom, where he glimpses Freddy in the mirror, then spots his brother in a tub of blood. And his brother, puppeted by Kruger, yells at him. You didn't forget about me, did you? Oh, that's right, everyone forgot. That's why they weren't afraid anymore. That's why I needed Jason to kill for me, to get them to remember. But now he just won't stop, that hockey puck. I think Goyer was really worried that people wouldn't understand the plot because I feel like this is about the 5th time someone has explained it. You know, people forgot about Kruger. Yeah, I know. And he needs them to remember so they'll be afraid. I know. Because that gives him power. Yeah, I know that. Okay, but did you know he's using Jason? I know. Stop it already. Little wiry things, I guess you can call them wires, come out of the ground and stab through Mark's feet, trapping him there. Snakes appear. Mark screams, "Wake me up, somebody please!" Kruger tells Mark what he wants. "I need somebody to send a message for me." Mark refuses. That is my biggest pet peeve in movies. When someone is like, "Agree to this or I'll kill you." Just say you'll send Freddy's message. Then when you wake up, don't. But also, you know what message Freddy wants him to send? "I'm back." Yeah, everyone knows that already. So yeah, Freddy sends the message himself instead, slashes Mark's face, and burns a message into his back. Freddy's back. Will and Laurie are there to see the message. They came looking for Mark, but arrived too late, once he was already dozing at his desk. One thing this movie definitely lacks on the Freddy front is that feeling of tiredness. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street, you watch Nancy deteriorate from days of sleep deprivation. You feel tired watching it. In this movie, you get the "oh no, I fell asleep" moments, but not the lead up, the staving off sleep. The others gather: Will, Laurie, Linderman, Kia, and Freeburg. A peripheral pothead who now joins the main cast in the forefront. They put their heads together. What should we do? That's when Stubbs steps out of the darkness. He's here to help. The cops at the station won't do anything, but he thinks there's a Jason copycat around. No, it's the real Jason. And Will thinks he might have figured out what's going on. You see, fear powers Freddy. So Will is thinking maybe Freddy brought Jason back to kill for him so people would think it was Freddy and start to fear him again. If this is the version of the movie after Goyer took a machete to the script, I'd be really curious to see how many times the plot gets explained in the original version.
Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that?
Sorry, what was that, Laurie? We're in the middle of a serious conversation here. We don't have time for your nonsense. Oh, you were serious about that. The line comes out of nowhere, makes no sense, and is rightfully ignored by the other characters entirely. To be fair, she is dreaming right now. Yes, she dozed off on the couch. In the dream, the characters decide Jason needs a virgin sacrifice. Linderman? Hey, even if you pay for it, it still counts. No, they look at Laurie. Her dad appears, gives her a very inappropriate kiss, then turns into Freddy. They wake her up, but not before she rips off his ear and brings it back with her to the real world. Wait, stuff can travel from dreams into the real world? Such a cool reveal. Yeah, a cool reveal. The first time we saw it back in 1984, it's a challenge for all these invincible slashers. It's boring if the characters are just there to die, so you gotta come up with a way for them to fight back. But Freddy's a complicated one. They came up with one clever idea that felt like the solution to a puzzle in the original. They set up rules and found a way to fight back within those rules. If you can bring stuff into the real world, maybe you can bring Freddy here too. Turn him into something physical that can be fought. The other option is to just make up random magic stuff, like in Jason Goes to Hell. He has a half-sister and only Voorheeses can kill Voorheeses, if they use this magic dagger. So it's hard to come up with something new. To be fair, this movie is a remix by nature, and to the extent it focuses on being a remix and doing it well, it is fun. You know what's weird? Will never had dreams when he was at Weston. They were giving him this drug, Hypnosil, while he was there. They look it up online, and sure enough, that's the ticket. Hypnosil represses dreams. They need some of that. So they break into Weston. There they find a room full of people in comas. People who had too much Hypnosil. And Laurie is like, who would do this to people? This feels like another random aside. I think the problem is that Hypnosil is too powerful a weapon. In theory, if you take it every night, you're infinitely safe from Freddy. So they had to show there's a cost. Look, too much and you'll end up in a coma. Meanwhile, Freeburg takes a J break and gets a visit from a Freddy Krueger caterpillar. The nice thing is, I don't mind the CGI in the dream world because it isn't reality, it's a dream. That caterpillar takes a hit off a hookah and blows the smoke in Freeburg's face. Then Krueger, through the coma patients, whispers to Freeburg, take the Hypnosil, dump it all down the drain. Freeburg isn't so sure about that, so instead, Kruger Caterpillar crawls into his mouth and takes over his body. Why not just do that from the start? Doesn't matter. Krugerberg starts dumping pills, and Jason's here. He kicked down a door, crushing a guard, and now he's in the control room. Stubbs dodges his machete. Instead, it lands in the control panel, electrocuting Jason. But he isn't going to go down alone. He grabs Stubbs, electrocuting him too, except only one of them is an immortal serial killer. The other is just Stubbs. And now he's a dead Stubbs. What a useless character. Why even set up the whole dynamic where nobody on the force will tell him about Kruger? So he's driven out and joins the kids instead. I guess just so he can sneak them into Weston, but they could have just had the kids break in. Goyer? Where were you on this one? Krugerberg finishes dumping the Hypnosil, then grabs some tranquilizers and injects Jason. Though before the hockey puck goes down, he cuts Freeberg in half. Wait, we just skipped over the best part.
We gotta go! Now! Come on!
Let me handle this, bitch.
With Jason asleep, he finds himself in Dream World, where Kruger again speaks through his mother. You were only supposed to kill a few, but then you kept killing. You weren't supposed to do that. Not sure if you guys knew this, but Freddy brought Jason back from the dead to kill a bunch of kids, but then he just kept killing. Oh, you have heard this already. Okay, good. Jason cuts off Freddy's arms and he grows them back, then beats Jason up. At first with his hands, then with dream power. He skewers Jason with his own machete, flings him around the boiler room environment like a pinball, complete with pinball sound effects. But he just won't die. The pinball was a nice moment because I'm realizing another ingredient that's missing, the fantastical. Other than the caterpillar, we haven't gotten much imagination from Freddy. No long arms or tongue sticking out of phones, just the equivalent of telepathy, people and objects flying around the room. While they fight, something brings Jason to a standstill. The one thing he's afraid of. Water. Freddy sees that, so he showers him with more water, turning Jason into a shivering little boy, literally. This moment is infamous. Jason is afraid of water? You'll see a lot of headlines from a few years ago where the writers clarified, no. He isn't afraid of water, he's afraid of drowning. Isn't that like saying, I'm not afraid of falling off a tall building, I'm afraid of hitting the ground? But I think the writers acknowledge that as translated to screen, this didn't work in execution. I totally get the idea. He drowned as a boy, and he fears that. But Jason has had plenty of exposure to water over the 9 movies leading up to this, and we've never caught a whiff of hydrophobia. Only way I could see this working is if Freddy exposed him not just to a stream of water, but actually gave him the experience of drowning, kind of like Art did to Sienna in Terrifier 2. Leone, by the way, is on record that he'd love to make a Friday the 13th movie. Please let that happen. Kruger couldn't be happier. Jason is finally afraid. Now let's see what really scares him. Freddy jams a finger blade into his skull for a dive into his mind. He finds Jason in a twisted version of Crystal Lake with corpses strewn about. In the real world, where is he? The kids threw him in the back of their van and have been keeping him subdued with a steady stream of tranks, but they're running out. Where are they taking him? Back to Crystal Lake. Why? The plan is an oldie but a goodie. Laurie is going to enter the dream world and drag Freddy into reality, where he and Jason can fight it out. Freddy won't have the dream advantage, so Jason should win. And then because he's in Crystal Lake, his home, hopefully he'll just stay there and leave them alone. Plus, in Crystal Lake, he'll have the home field advantage. Not sure how much that would actually help. In fact, it would probably only hurt, considering his hydrophobia. The logic all kinda makes sense, which is how I describe all the plans in this movie. Even Freddy's original plan with Jason threads a fine needle. Jason is going to kill kids on Elm Street. Naturally, teen murders will get people whispering of Freddy's return. Now, the kills don't match his MO, and there's a Jason the size of a Bigfoot strolling around, so pretty soon people are going to realize it's Jason, not Freddy doing the killing. And then the whole plan is foobar. So when Jason starts killing too many kids, it's a problem because it becomes more obvious it's his doing, not Freddy's. So Freddy needs Jason to kill just enough, and then the second he's recharged, start doing some killing himself so as not to be overshadowed by Jason. The whole thing is absurd, but I enjoy it from the standpoint of we're trying to have fun here, so let's go wild with the concept. As they approach Camp Crystal Lake, Laurie goes to sleep. In Dream World, she finds herself in the past. A young Jason is picked on and pushed into the water, while uncaring camp counselors prove the one thing they do care about, and it's disgusting. Laurie pleads with them, "You're not gonna do anything?"
Mean you're not coming?
It's not my fault this bitch is dead on her feet.
She tries to help Jason out of the water, but Freddy pops out and pulls him down. A nice parallel to zombie Jason popping out of the water in 1980. In the real world, water starts pouring out of Jason's mask. He's drowning. Kia has to give him mouth to mouth. Linderman would do it, but he has asthma.
Kia, he has asthma!
Okay, that's pretty hilarious. She looks at Jason's undead, never been brushed, let alone flossed teeth, and he wakes up. The van crashes, and Jason launches out of it, and that looks pretty absurd. In Dream World, Freddy attacks Laurie, but instead of killing her, takes her on a trip down bad memory lane, the death of her mother. And you're not gonna believe it, Freddy killed her, not Laurie's dad. Did Freddy puppet her dad like he did Freeburg? Or maybe Dad found her getting attacked by an invisible force like Tina in the original, and he tried to save her, but to Will, it looked like he was killing her. Probably not worth thinking about too much. Finally, Freddy starts slicing Laurie up, but really takes his time. And this again makes me wish for more of the fantastical. At this point, Freddy amounts to a bad guy crouching over a teen with a couple of knives. Where's the human puppet from Dream Warriors? Or the video game kill from Freddy's Dead? Well, maybe we're better off without that one.
Now I'm playing with power!
Or maybe we need it back now more than ever. Just think what he could do now with motion controls. He rips the Joy-Cons off the side of a Switch 2, and that makes the kid's arms fly off or something. In the real world, the other kids fight Jason. Linderman saves Kia by momentarily distracting him, getting himself mortally wounded in the process. Very heroic, though to be honest, not sure how much he actually helped. When Laurie's hand touches the fire started by Jason knocking over a gas canister, that fire finally wakes her up, and she brings Freddy with her. I love the hard rock score that kicks in at this moment. That's when the movie knows what it is and why we're here. This isn't a movie, it's an event. And now, we're at the headliner. It's so fun watching Jason unload physically on a supernatural being who can take a lot more punishment than all the puny humans. Cut to Kia and Linderman, the classic, "Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Okay, I'll get help." Then Linderman dies. Oh no. Anyway, Freddy comes after Laurie and Will, so Kia distracts him with insults.
You're not even scary. You're not even scary. And let's talk about the butter knives. What is with the butter knives?
That is annoying, and makes this moment so fun, when Freddy is like, "Yeah, look behind you." Whack! Jason hits her with the machete so hard, she flies into a tree, dead. More of the over-the-top, brute strength he brings to this movie. Freddy and Jason are back at it. Freddy slices and kicks, all mostly useless. Then, he unleashes the nearby industrial equipment on the brute. Behind the scenes, Ronnie Yu talked about taking inspiration from Rocky, specifically when Rocky is beaten to hell by Apollo and asks Mickey to cut his eye.
He tell the trainer, cut it open. And that moment, like, I go, ooh, you know. And then actually they cut it open and the blood just spurts out, you know. And that for me is raw.
You definitely feel the rawness in this scene. Every hit has impact. It's like that first Bruce versus Bane fight in Dark Knight Rises, with a heavy dose of absurdity. Though I can't help but think this should have been in the Dream World for a more absurd battle, but I get that would give Freddy too much of an advantage. Though if I were to pitch a sequel, I'd suggest maybe Jason gets his hands on one of the Dream Demons and evens the playing field while allowing for more fantastical elements in the battle. It'd also be fun to see what the presumably unimaginative Jason dreams up. Ultimately, in a physical world, the undead, seemingly immortal Jason has the unequivocal advantage. After a series of brutal beatings by heavy equipment and stabbings by metal rods, Jason gives Freddy a taste of his machete, until Freddy slices off his fingers, takes the machete for himself, and returns the favor. All this while Laurie and Will spray the dock with gasoline and light it ablaze. So who wins the fight? The dock blows up while the two are in the process of mutilating each other. Freddy sticks the machete in Jason's chest while Jason sticks his fist into Freddy's and rips off his arm for good measure. Damn it, I really thought he was going to stab Freddy with his own claws. And there it is. One-armed Freddy walks toward Laurie and Will with Jason's machete, until, once again, Jason pops out of the water and puts Freddy's own claws through his back. It had to happen, and these are the moments when the movie is at its best, aware of what it is, and delivering the goods of this insane mashup. Finally, Laurie takes the machete and beheads Freddy. The end. Or is it? Cut to a foggy lake. Jason walks out holding Freddy's head, which winks at the screen. And on Freddy's laugh, a familiar cue from the Nightmare theme, along with Jason's ch-ch-ch, ah. Though it could have ended some other ways. They shot one ending where 2 months later, Will and Laurie are intimate, but suddenly he has Freddy's finger claws, and that ending makes no sense. It was not the writer's idea, they weren't fans of it, and are thankful to this day neither were test audiences. In their first draft of the script, Swift and Shannon actually had Pinhead show up from Hellraiser. Apparently the studio liked the idea, but didn't like the idea of having to get the rights. Many drafts had Jason and Freddy fighting in hell, but a studio note stuck with them. Hell never looks good on screen. It's probably best left to the imagination, so the writers say they have no regrets about skipping hell. I kinda wish they'd gone for it. That might have allowed for some of the insanity you get in a Nightmare without giving Freddy an unfair advantage. With the $117 million worldwide gross, the movie was the highest performing of either franchise. There were talks of a sequel, specifically one that would have crossed over the two characters with Ash from Evil Dead. That never happened on screen, but we did get it as a comic. Ultimately, this movie ended up concluding both franchises, with the next entries in each being total reboots. Though Swift and Shannon have had ideas for a sequel, and despite some messiness in this movie, I'd love to see it. Especially after so many years, it would be fun to get some blood-soaked nostalgia. And with Campbell retired from playing Ash in live action, they can throw someone else in the mix, like, I don't know, The Grabber? Sorry, I'll stop giving Hollywood terrible ideas. Or is it?
Month of Terror continues tomorrow with It, Welcome to Derry, Episode 1.